you make a point, and you made me think about something else you said. You said at one point that black people were just poison, and that they should not just be hanging around each other.
That's one of the instructions. That's one of the instructions in the book, and one of the instructions I constantly repeat. That's why I say when people ask me questions, I try to get them to be specific. Then I can go directly to what the code says about it, because it's all about problem solving. So when you ask black people, well, what black people are qualified to lead other black people and all like that? None. We just exchange views. Why? Because we don't know enough. We're all on that slave ship. See, and so one thing that black people have to do, because we are all poisonous. Neely Fuller is poisonous. I have poison in me, in my mind, and in my body. And every time I come in contact with anybody, I spread that poison. The white supremacists have poisoned all of their victims. There's no such thing as a pure black person, I mean pure in mind, pure in body, on this planet in the system of white supremacy. We're all loaded with poison, and we spread that poison. That's why when we come in contact with each other, there's 3 or 4 of us. You got a recipe for hostility there. The poison is there, and that's one of the first things we have to recognize. So how do we counteract the poison that is in ourselves? We have a code, and the code says one thing: we do not contact each other unless we have something constructive to say or do. Now that's dynamite right there. That will give the white supremacists a headache overnight. If every non-white person, every black person on the planet would just start doing that right this minute. And I usually use the cliche term overnight, but right this minute, miracles would happen all over the planet, just on that one thing alone. Every black person says, I'm not talking to nobody unless I have something constructive to say. Not family members, not people I hang out with. I'm not making trivial conversation under any circumstance. Now that would be painful to black people in the northwestern hemisphere and in other places on the planet, because we are very folksy. We are very ingrained in being folksy, in talking just to be talking. That's a part of our culture. But it spreads poison when we do it. It doesn't start out that way. But you can take 15 black people and sit them in a living room and just having them just talk. The only reason for being there is just to be with each other. We like that. We call that being together. We call that togetherness. We call that, some of us call it black unity. It is not. It's a recipe for disaster. And the record shows it. You don't have to take Neely Fuller's word for it. Get a bunch of black people together and let them run out of conversation, which is what they're going to do when they don't have a plan. Next thing you know, somebody's going to start criticizing somebody or picking at somebody. And the next thing you know, you got an argument. And then the argument escalates maybe into 1 or 2 fights. And then you got yellow tape fluttering all over the neighborhood. Blinking lights and yellow tape. If you were up on the moon looking down on Earth, you can always tell where the black people are. Look for the yellow lights, the yellow tape and the blinking lights. See, that's where the black people are, at each other again. Sneakers pointed toward the sky in a V formation in the middle of the street. Junebug Jones, another statistic, shot 9 times. Blinking lights, radios crackling, people walking around with yellow chalk, circling cartridges. Black culture at its most prominent. Everywhere on the planet, and particularly in the northern hemisphere and the northwestern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. Places like we'll call so-called Brazil. Anywhere you find real dark-skinned people, that's what you find. And white men walking around and white women and some black people walking around with pads in their hands taking notes. Anywhere you find us, particularly particular, as soon as the sun goes down. It starts happening. And many times in broad daylight, wherever you find us. And what is that a result of? Black people, first of all, coming in contact with each other without a constructive plan. You hear this slogan all the time. Black people got to get together. We got to get together. We got to get together. No, black people got to stay a heck away from each other as individuals on a daily basis until you have something constructive to say. Then you get on the cell phone. Now, if we all did that, the first thing you would notice is something very painful. You would notice deafening silence. You walk into a black neighborhood, you think everybody died. Because we wouldn't have anything constructive to say, and we wouldn't be saying anything, so everything is quiet. But we can think of things. See, for the first time, probably, in our entire existence, you say, boy, I want to talk to somebody, but on account of, counter-racist logic, on account of the counter-racist code, I can't talk to nobody unless I got something constructive to say. And man, I ain't used to that. Let's see now. I'm going to go over here and sit down in this comfortable chair, and I'm going to think of something constructive to say, because I'm going out of my mind. Trying to think of, I'm just used to saying anything to anybody. Just pick up the phone just because I got one and start dialing people. And next thing you know, I'm cussing somebody out, and they're cussing me out, and I'm slamming the phone down. That's black people. That's our culture. We worship that culture. But we need to stop that immediately, like right now, and pass that word on. I'm not talking to anybody unless I have something constructive to say. And the minute you have something constructive to say, then that's when you start dialing. That's when you start visiting people. Don't sit up in nobody's living room on their sofa and whatnot unless you have a constructive reason for being there to say something or being there to help them do something constructive. Otherwise, you have no business being there. Not for 5 minutes. I'm not going to visit anybody, ever, in their place of residence, unless I have a constructive reason for being there, and that constructive reason has got to be announced before I get there, so they'll know where I'm coming. That's code. That's the kind of military discipline that we need to get us out of this mess. And when we do that, that's something we don't have. That doesn't take a long, drawn-out plan where you have to have a big assembly of people and whatnot and go and pay to some, Neely Fuller to speak to a huge audience. You don't have to do that. These are things you can do right instantly. And then spread this word. And it will create a miracle all over the world. The white supremacists will be saying, oh, these people, wow. I mean, these black people have suddenly gotten weird on us. They will not hold a conversation unless it has a constructive value to it. That you use something, you learn something that you can use. They will not talk to anybody unless that's going on. The black people that come on the job and running their mouths and popping gum all day and all like that, and you can hear them from the back of the room, all like that, they have stopped doing that. They don't do that anymore. And they did it overnight. They don't do it, period. That's a part of their religion. They simply will not do that. Even when they want to do it, they won't do it. Because they get these urges, but then they catch themselves. Even when they start a conversation and they realize that the conversation ain't going nowhere, it's just jive talk or something like that, they stop it. They stop it immediately and say, I'll talk to you some other time.
Wow.
I have to go. I have business to attend to. Suppose everybody, every black person, immediately, from Johannesburg to New York to Dalton, Georgia, just suddenly got in that mode of thinking and actually started doing it right this minute. The whole world would change, and the white supremacists would be nervous as all get out. I mean, they would say, hey, our business is being threatened. Get those black people to high-fiving and fist bumping and shucking and jiving and hugging each other and hanging out with each other on the corner and whatnot without any constructive reason except you're here and I'm here and let's get somebody else here and let's talk to each other so at some point we can do what we usually do best, is start joning each other, start criticizing each other, and then in 15 minutes be at each other's throats. Or gunfire all over the place. That unmistakable sound. Pop, 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 pop. You know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Those of you who have heard it, and I've heard it all too much and too long. And it all comes from one basic thing. Black people being in contact with people without a constructive reason for the contact. That car rolls up. Hey, man, we're just kind of hanging out. Get in. Wait a minute. No. Where are you all going? All 6 of you sitting in that car. Where are you going? You want me to squeeze in there and y'all going somewhere? Where are you going? And what are you going to do when you get where you're going? Oh, man, we just kind of chilling. We hanging. No. Enough hanging. Okay? I'm not going. And when you all think of something constructive to do, when you say you're going somewhere and paint somebody's barn or something like that, call me. Oh, man, I thought you was my buddy. That's how we going to be buddies for a long time. Rather than be somewhere locked up, all 7 of us. Now, I ain't being mean. I'm just saying we need to change some of our ways. Last time I was in the car with y'all had to step on the gas and get out of that driveway right quick before the roller showed up. Why? Because that's the kind of stuff that we breed when we are together. And we need to acknowledge that, first of all, to ourselves, not to the rest of the world. They already know it. We need to say that we are poisonous. And the best antidote for that poison is for us not to be in contact with each other, even on holidays, unless we got a constructive reason for doing so. And as soon as that constructive reason is taken care of, get as far away from each other as we possibly can until we think of another constructive reason for getting together.